We're here today with Gary Barnes, and I want to introduce him to our audience so that you can have a better picture of who Gary Barnes is. He's a coach, he's a mentor, he's an author, and an international speaker. I welcome you, Gary Barnes, to our audience and to interview and conversation with Ernie. How are you today?
Thank you so much. It's my honor and pleasure to be here with you.
It's wonderful to have you as a guest on our video cast, as I call it, show. So Gary, please tell the audience the different people that mentored you and who you shared the stage with.
You know, it's always an interesting journey. Some of my mentors were people in business. I remember a gentleman named Marion Herring, excuse me. He taught me it didn't matter what the economy was doing, and it was really about your activity that was going to make the biggest results that you would receive. And I was 20 years old when I met him, and we became partners. And that was one of the big turning points in my life. And I've had the privilege of sharing the stage, and as you know, I produce events as well. Nordine Zoig, a two-time Mr. Universe, who redeveloped and created himself out of a 98-pound weakling into a world-class physique with naturally. He was one of the unique ones that didn't use steroids or anything like that. But Jack Canfield, boy, my brain is going blank. There's been so many that it's just been a true blessing to share the stage with people that I have looked up to. Stedman Graham, Oprah's boyfriend, was one. It is just, after growing up in Palm Springs, one of the things that I realized that people were the same, and I really look at when I've been able to share the stage with individuals that I look for that. Are they the same on stage as they are off? And so, it is a small community, if you can believe that. And so there's plenty of room for all of us and those that are watching us to join us on those stages.
I agree with you. Gary, I'm looking forward to sharing the stage with you as either at your boot camp or when I produce my own, because I know I will at some point. And we'll get into Gary's boot camp a little bit later on because you folks will want to hear about that. It's really amazing. It's a 3-day event. And actually he's stretching it to 4, I believe, Wednesday night as well. And that's next year. So before we get into that, Gary, please tell the audience the low point in your life.
The major low point was in 1988 when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And they didn't really give me any hope because the first neurologist, in his true understanding of what he was dealing with, so it was his opinion, was I would be dead or in a wheelchair within 10 years. And I didn't like that. And so it was one of those things that now, 30 plus years later, I consider this bonus time. But that episode really allowed me to look at what life was, what was that I really wanted to do. I created my 100th birthday party where I'll be skydiving. The early work that I did, though, really helped me through that. Because again, in my 20s, I went through a chaplaincy training at a hospital. And before they allowed me to go on to the oncology unit, the cancer ward, or the emergency room, we had to do a number of things. We had to attend our own funeral. We had to write our epitaph, and we had to write what was going to be on our tombstone. So virtually what we had to do was to, deal with our own mortality, because unless we deal with that, we can't deal with anyone else's. And that story for yourself. Yes. And when we start realizing that this is a timeline that, we don't know how long it is, it puts a different meaning on, instead of spending time, we invest time.
It's very true. And if you want to hear more about Gary's story, you know, one of his books has the different episodes that he went through and how he actually brings humor into a total tragic situation. And he makes it really wonderful. And I just love that. And I love the story, you know, especially when you say, can I have option number 4? And believe me, people, if you want to hear what the first 3 options are, they're going to get to you. And when you hear him say that, it will make you laugh and it'll make you chuckle. It'll break up the ice. So since then, Gary, and what have you done in the last 25, 30 years after this diagnosis where you have built your empire?
You know, it was interesting because the diagnosis came right in the middle of my financial planning career. I had built a firm that was in the top 3% in production as a solo producer. And so I continued with that. I didn't tell anybody because if a doctor thinks you're going to die, people have a tendency not to want to invest their money with you. So I really made it a non-issue. About 16, 17 years ago, the marketplace changed to where I was not in a position to where I could serve my clients the way I really believed they needed to be served. Some of the rules changed. And that's not to say that financial planners or financial planning is a bad thing, because I truly believe in it. But for my own desires of how I wanted to serve my clients, I wasn't able to do it. So I knew that I was going to be selling the practice. And I did that. But people kept reaching out to me and asking me, how did I build my business so quickly to such a high level? And so I did the proverbial, buy me a hamburger and I'll tell you. And, you know, during this, it was even before I sold the practice, and I didn't really, you know, need additional revenue. So I was just giving it away. But a number of different people said, we're not going to refer people to you anymore unless you charge. And so the coaching practice really was organic. I've been a speaker my entire life because my early background was theology and psychology. And so in the ministry, or, you know, it was just something I've always graduated to, or not graduated, went to. But it's, so the one thing that I never thought I'd be would be an author. And like you had mentioned, the story about MS, I really didn't think anybody would have an interest. But after I sold the practice, people kept saying, you know, write this down, share it. And so I didn't want to write an MS book. So I wrote the book as an adversity book. So it applies to virtually anyone that could be, dealing with. And so what we ended up doing is I wrote this book and we changed the title. The title now is How a Beaver Saved My Life. And because of that, we've been able to impact audiences around the world. I've been on PBS, TEDx reached out for me to do that story. All the major networks and all the other things that come along with that. But, the thing that I'm, my mission right now, and the word that I use as my moniker is the word expansion. And really to make a difference and to empower, but not my power to you, but helping you connect the power that's already within you. And when I see the light bulbs come on whatever stage I'm on, or, get the emails, the cards, that something that we have done has made a difference in someone's life and allowed them and gave them permission maybe to be able to engage, that to me is a win. And, to plant seeds and to watch people grow, it just really is phenomenal.
I agree with you 110%, Gary. One of the few things that drew me to Gary was not his abilities and what I learned from him, but actually about what we had in common. He was a drummer, I am a drummer. He had a love for airplanes. I was a pilot until let's say I got diabetes, so I can't legally fly a plane anymore. So, and I don't, because you don't want your sugar dropping out at 10,000 feet. Anyway, those things you look for personal things that you can connect with first. And then from there, you'll find out what this person can offer you and unlock and unload and explode in your own self, in your own mind, what you can do. So Gary talks about different things that he overcame. And one of them, of course, was his it's easy for you to say, MS problem that he had and still suffers with today, but he still has a command with mind over matter. And it's very similar to Morris Goodman that I used as in corporate America that we use as mind over matter. And he's well known in a secret. So there's a lot of parallel between Gary's story and Morris Goodman's story. And of course, last November, I was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm and a stroke all at the same time. And they told my wife in 15 minutes, I would be dead if they didn't get me in the OR. So they were asking me, oh, are you a donor? And I said, yeah, take what you need. I was out of it. I didn't know. So there's a lot of stories in here. Go back and watch the other stories on Leah Woodford and how she was at the top and she developed skin cancer and what happened to her. And also about Heather Rose, about her having a child with autism and how she conquered that and still had time to build a business for her and her family. So these interviews are about people who have overcome their situation. They will not let anything stop them. And I applaud them. In fact, I'm surprised that Gary and Berta Leva and Robert Raymond came and sat on me because they told me to slow down. And I kept going, no, I got to keep going. And I'm surprised they didn't come over to my house and actually sit on me. So enough about me. Let's get back to Gary. If you want to know more about his story, how to get his books, how to find out about boot camp, which I know you will talk about, please tell the audience where they can find you. And I will put that in the comments below on this YouTube channel as well.
The two places that is most readily available is the website is I was giving you the boot camp. Gary Barnes International, and Barnes is BARNES, international spelled out.com. And the other thing is that I've always opened myself up to personal emails. And if anybody would like to reach out directly to me, I answer all of my emails personally. And it's just simply Gary at Gary Barnes, again, BARNES, international spelled out.com.
Yes, and audience, I want you to know that this man is reachable. And he's reachable because he wants to help people. He doesn't put barriers like some of these other people that are well known as well put between themselves and the people. He actually communicates with you, and he will do that. And if you want to be interviewed, make sure you get a hold of ErnieMeyerLive.com, and I will be glad to interview you. You can actually put a request on my calendar to be interviewed, and I will be in touch with you right away, if not within a week. So please be with me and be with Gary. And Gary, tell them when your boot camp is, because I'm going to my third and my wife is going to my second. She's loving it.
Well, thank you for that. We have been doing boot camps for a while now. I have gone down to only one per year. And so they're going to be in September. The next one is September 22, 23, and 24. Or 23, 24, 25. Anyway, in September 2022. So it's a little over a year. You can find the information at breakthroughbusinessmastery.com. And I do a couple of bonuses when people register, and the early bird special for attending is available right now, is that you're included in my group coaching program. It's 2 Zoom calls per month where it's open Q&A, where the attendees ask me any questions that they would like around business. And then you receive an MP3 and an MP4, the video and the audio, the very next day. Particularly if you're in a time zone that doesn't work for you. If you happen to be in a time zone that doesn't work, you can always email me a question that I'll answer live on the call as well. And I do those 2 times per month. The other thing is that I also include a 30-minute coaching session that does not expire. It can be used at any point. And it's truly a coaching session. It's not a commercial to get you to do something else. This is truly dedicated to whatever topic, idea, whatever you want to have a reflection on. And it's really a lot of fun for me to be able to help people along those lines. But the boot camp is number 41 coming up. We just did number 40. And obviously, that was really a milestone. And it's here in Denver, Colorado. And again, you can go to breakthroughbusinessmastery.com or just email me at Gary@GaryBarnesInternational.com if you have questions.
Very good. Gary, are there any parting words you want to tell the audience before we leave? Otherwise, go ahead.
No, the biggest thing is to engage. Launch and adjust is one of the concepts that I teach. And, the other thing is there is a 3-part process that I also teach around is for success in any business and actually success in anything in your life is number 1, be seen. You have a mission, you have a message. Please shout it from the mountaintop. If you're the best kept secret, it doesn't do you or those that you possibly could serve any good. And it's not about ego. It's truly about mission. And when you tie into that, it comes across without ego and people really appreciate it. The second thing is to be safe. And what I mean by that is no agenda. See, right now with Ernie, I have no agenda outside of supporting him and supporting his mission, his cause, and to be able to make an impact. Before I speak on anything, I always do a little prayer. Let me touch one. There is someone that needs to hear something that comes out of an interview or a talk, a speech, and it's the reason that we do what we do. But when we are safe, we become what I call a people magnet. The third thing is to be relevant. And what that means to me is that most of us really see what we have is a valuable need in the community. But does your avatar, your perfect person that you're wanting to draw to you, are they, seeing it as a desire? When you have a desire and a need combination, it's a perfect match. If it isn't, it doesn't mean to get a new product or service. It means to position it a little bit differently. I deal with quite a few health professionals, and I always ask them, do Americans want to be healthy? And their answer normally is yes. And I said, well, if that's true, why is McDonald's the #1 restaurant in America? And they go, oh, okay. What do people really want? They want fast, taste good, and cheap. And so what we do is we look for a process that I call transferring from a so what to a so that. And when you do that, people see what it is that they could have. And sometimes the thing that they could have, they've never experienced. So they're truly borrowing your belief in what you have, and they will trust just a little bit. But having those 3 things and launch and adjust, just go ahead and step out. You'll be glad you did. And the people that you are meant to serve will also be very blessed.
That is well said. And I know that for a fact because I have been to, like I say, 2 of Gary's boot camps, and his prayers were answered because he touched at least 2 people. And I know of many others in the room that he also touched. So make sure you get a hold of Gary. And if you want to be interviewed, make sure you get a hold of me. I love to interview people and I love to talk to people. That's where it's at. So for now, we'll sign off. And that's it, Gary. I guess we will end our interview. And